There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. And that's why I'm on the trail of the Nephilim. I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. I think you'll find this one pretty interesting because I'm going to do a deep dive. It's a presentation I did a while back, and I'm going to do it here in the studio with a 2-camera shoot. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. How fast can stock market sentiment change? In an instant, folks. Just ask NVIDIA investors. Nearly $600 billion in market value wiped out overnight. No warning, no second chances. Noble Gold Investments is alerting all clients, diversify now. Market crashes don't wait. They strike fast, devastating the unprepared. But smart investors, they're already one step ahead, protected and prepared. For nearly a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped thousands protect their wealth with gold IRAs and physical gold. With over $2 billion in precious metal sales, Noble Gold is a trusted choice for Americans serious about financial security. Gold, it's real, it's yours, it retains value. And now, when you open a qualified account, you'll receive 2 5-ounce Silver America the Beautiful coins free. Are you diversified? If not, when will you act? After your portfolio is down 10, 20, 30%? Or will you protect your portfolio now? The next market crash won't send a warning. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Don't just grow your wealth, guard it. Folks, we did. We invested several years ago, and I'm really glad we did. noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Remember, there's no guarantee here, and you look into this investment. Talk to your financial advisor before you make the investment, as there is no guarantee. But I got to tell you, personally, I'm glad we invested in noblegoldinvestments.com. Just so you know, you can go look. It's I'm sure John's got it up on camera too. But I'm the author of 14 books. The newest one is Rungs of Disclosure. Before we get into this, right here, and it's an interactive website, rungsofdisclosure.com. Rungsofdisclosure.com. There are 17 rungs of disclosure, the UFO disclosure, in the book. Since then, we're up to 19. And the latest one was Mr. Barber, who declared that he was transporting these egg-shaped UFOs around. I did a whole presentation on that. So rungsofdisclosure.com is the place where you want to get that information. And, of course, our 10-box UFO DVD set, my business partner Gil Zimmerman and I worked feverishly to get these things out. So we've got 14 books and 30 films, but our mission statement, which is something that I don't say too often, but I'm going to repeat it again here because it's really important. Our mission statement is to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air and to herald the return of the King Jesus. So in our opinion, we're very close. There's all this new stuff going around that, Nephilim look like clowns. Interesting, believe what you want to believe, that we're in the time of the short time where Satan is cast to earth after the 1,000-year millennial reign. Nonsense, in my opinion. We are headed to the tribulation. The church is not destined for the tribulation, but this is not the millennial kingdom. Trust me. World War I and World War II, that's supposed to be the millennial kingdom? I think not. Jesus did not rule from Jerusalem. This whole thing is completely screwing people with the idea of the proper way to interpret biblical prophecy and also end times. And I take umbrage with it because some of us, like Gary Stearman, have worked for decades to try to bring the folks to truth. And now it's being maligned by the latest fad going around. Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. We are not in the millennial kingdom, number one. Jesus is going to return to earth, but only after the 7-year tribulation. I believe we're close to that. But let's move on. So this is entitled The Nephilim, Shocking Discoveries. I probably won't. This is probably going to be a 2 or 3-parter. We'll just have to see how it works. But this is something I want to try to bring to light with this administration, because, as I said before, I understand that certain funds from taxpayer money goes into keeping museums up. I understand that. Also, Many museums get large donations, private donations. So if that's the case, they can kind of do what they please. They can go where they want to go. But my problem is this, and if any of you can answer this, please shoot me an email, la@lamarzulli.net. If museums are being funded by taxpayer money and they are promulgating a certain paradigm, then I take umbrage with that. Oh, there's that word again. And I do, and I'll tell you why. Because everything, the scientific community and the academia, the academic community run on Darwinism. That's the prevailing paradigm throughout the globe. Everyone that in the scientific, not everyone, I'm broad brushing here, but many people in the scientific community, many people in academia hold tenaciously onto the Darwinian paradigm, the Darwinian theory. The neo-Darwinists are looking at what happened a couple hundred years ago now, almost, and going, with the discovery of the DNA molecular structure, it's not holding weight anymore. It's not holding up. It's just not working out, because the whole idea of this complex DNA coding just didn't come from nowhere. Somebody designed this thing. And as Ben Stein says, and it's a great movie if you haven't seen any Spell, he sits down with Richard Dawkins. Dawkins is one of the premier evolutionists of the 20th and 20th century. And Stein goes, well, where did this come from? And where did the self-replicating molecule come from? Where did the first self-replicating molecule come from? And Dawkins says, stop. I told you, nobody knows. And no one does know. We have no idea. But the word, the Bible, the biblical prophetic narrative tells us that God created everything. He spoke everything into existence. Jesus spoke everything into existence, and he holds all things together. Of course, that's the paradigm in which I hold on to tenaciously. So, shocking discoveries, and the reason why I bring this up, I found this photograph in the Catalina Island archives. Is that museum a private museum? I have no idea. Is there a board of trustees? I mean, I can do a deep dive and find out, and I want to do that. But many of the museums around, I believe, are held in place by taxpayer dollars. So why is it that only one paradigm is being shown in these museums? We need to do a deep dive on this. Doge needs to get involved, but we'll see what happens with that. So there's the Catalina Island giant that I discovered. There's Ralph Gooden. His height is about 5'8". And the height was just over 8'9", but we rounded it down to 8'6" for error, so we weren't trying to be sensationalistic. Other people had picked up on this, but this is the photograph that I found. I was the one who flew out to Catalina Island. I paid the $1,000 donation to the new museum. I was the one who spent hours in the archives finding this, and then had three wonderful people look at the picture, determine that it was not a fake or forgery or photoshopped in any way, and then they weighed in on it. And remember, those three people that weighed in on it, there was no collusion between them until after they'd given me the results. All of them put the skeleton just around 9 feet. What's that doing out in Catalina? Look at the size of the skull. And by the way, I was featured on the History Channel's In Search of a Lost Giants, the last episode, the finale episode. I think it only ran one season. They're not going to find a giant. They're just not. They did this one archaeological dig. It was very pristine, really, really well done. But, most of this stuff has been carted away well over 100 years ago now. Well over. Are there some still out there? I believe that there are. Where are they? Who knows? There are mounds that we can go to, and we have permission to dig, but there's supernatural stuff that happens on some of these mounds. And unless you have marching orders, and this is where I'm at, folks, unless I have marching orders to go, I won't go anymore. I told this before, but I'll say it again. We were supposed to go across the pond and film. We had like a very rigorous 10-day shooting schedule. Everyone was all set up. Lord gets me up one night and goes, I didn't tell you to go there. Whoa! So I've learned. At almost 75 years old. I'll be 75 this year. When Peggy, my wife, hears me say it, he's always doing that. And I get that. I'm always projecting into the future. But Mondo Gonzalez says I'm in my 8th decade. Thanks a lot, Mondo. But here we are. And pictures like this that are hidden away. And this picture was taken circa 1919, 1921, somewhere in that window of time. And all that's gone. And frankly, nobody really cares anymore because it's always kept under the radar. Let's move on here. So there's a byline I use constantly when I'm talking about this. We're talking about the Nephilim and about ancient megalithic structures that we see all over the globe. There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I'm on the trail of the Nephilim. You know, folks, it's we're told a particular paradigm, and we're told that this is science, and we must believe in it. But what if it's not? What if the science that the so-called science that's behind this really isn't science at all? It's someone's paradigm, and it's an anti-Christian paradigm. And even when I say that, that raises hackles on some people's neck, and I should say intellectual hackles. But let's continue. Everything goes back to the Genesis 3:15 seed ward, and I believe they came here, fallen angels came here, they were worshipped as gods, and they set up shop all over the globe. Now, why do I say that? Because wherever I go in the Americas and throughout Mexico, South America, over into Europe, I mean, it's a global phenomenon. It really is. And there was, and Mando Gonzalez and I have talked about this. Oh, there's that name again. But Mando and I have talked about this. And when Joshua and Caleb go into the promised land, and they press the conquests from those Nephilim tribes, there's a diaspora. Nephilim tribes went west, there's no doubt. Some of them may have gone east, the elongated skulls that we see in Paracas. They are not indigenous to South America. I mean, our DNA has proven that. And we are in the process of doing new DNA research along with some other very interesting things, which I'll be revealing hopefully sometime later in the year. But you know what? There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. Why? Because it points back to the biblical prophetic narrative. Genesis 3:15. Gary Spearman, thank you, older brother Gary. That Gary was the one that unpacked this at one of the Nephilim conferences, Amateur of a Nephilim conferences that we did in Ohio. Gary was there, Russ Dizdar was there, Chief Joseph Riverwind, our good friend of the show. And, you know, it's always great to have Chief come into the studio or just go on an adventure with him. Of course, Fritz Zimmerman, who got me into all this to begin with, and I've told that story, so I won't before many times, and I won't bore you with it again, but it was Fritz's book, Nephilim Chronicles, Fallen Angels in the Ohio Valley, which set me on the path that I have been on ever since I read that book. So let's continue. Ancient megalithic structures, Nephilim architecture. Now, many of you have heard me talk about this before, but there's a lot of new people, and you know, you're oblivious to it. So again, we've got 8 films on the trail of a Nephilim. This is Sacsayhuama. And you can see the enormous megalithic stones that are pre-cut, that are somehow fitted together without mortar. It's ashlar construction. That means there's no mortar. And you can see just how large this is. Look at the little person down on the left-hand side. Look at these. The people are like ants. And it begs the question, who did this? How did they do it? And why did they do it? Now, Tim Alberino and I had been to the site together, and Tim believes, as I do, what we are looking at is more than likely pre-flood construction. But it is, in my opinion, again, Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology. That's Ron Moorhead to the right. This huge stone that you can see right over Ron's right-hand shoulder, that's what, 80 tons? How is that moved? The quarry, according to Brian Forrester, is about 45 miles away. If you look above that stone, you'll see a lighter stone which has been placed in the wall. And if you look to your far left of that, about 2/3 of the way in, you'll see what I can, or all the way to the left, you'll see what I call Inca slop, because that's head-size boulders found on the site used to sort of repair the wall. According to Tim Alberino's research, when the conquistadors came in to this area and they asked the Inca, who built this? How many times have I heard this? The Inca said, we don't know. It was here when we got here. That's exactly what the white settlers who come into what's now the Newark earthworks and see the Great Circle Mound, the Octagon Mound, and all these other mounds go, who built this? And the First Nation people, well, we don't know. It was here when we got here. So did they forget? No, they didn't forget. They're telling us the truth, that it was here when they got here. Same thing with the Inca. Moving right along, it's a great shot of the wall. And now you can see what I mean by the stones fitted together in those gaps where larger stones have fallen out over the centuries. Now, look at this. How do you do this? You tell me. Look at the curves. And again, it is so precise, and I'm quoting our friend of our ministry and our shows, Brian Forrester, you can't fit a credit card between them or a human hair. I mean, the precision here is off the charts. And how do you do this? Just look at some of the stones. And they're fitted together absolutely perfectly. All sorts of theories out there. Is there some sort of machine which melts the stone and makes it malleable and soft? Very possible. But if we're truly honest about this, we don't know. I'll give you an idea just how big this is. That's Irene, Brian Forrester's wife, and that stone that she is touching is almost twice as tall as she is. She's about 5'5", 5'6". Again, look at the size of this unbelievable edifice that we see. I believe when you touch those stones, you are touching the fingerprints of the supernatural. Now, above these stones here, this is what I mean by Inca slop. You can see that these are head-sized stones, that they're thrown in with mortar. It has nothing to do with the precision cuts that we see below it. This is called the gateway to the Sacred Valley. You can see way in the background there. That is the Sacred Valley. And you've got two different builders. On the left, you've got pristine stonework, absolutely pristine. And to the right, you have, it's a nice looking wall. It certainly isn't sloppy, but it's Inca. So you have two totally different builders here. And it's a mystery, folks. Then you go to places like Ollantaytambo. What is this? What is this? This is on the valley floor. What was thrown down? You can see the stones in the background. Something very cataclysmic happened at Ollantaytambo, where the whole thing, the whole edifice was thrown down, and only the vestiges of it remain. And I'll show you that in just a second. So why create this? Is this part of a machine? And it's conjecture on my part, but many of us think that, yes, this was some sort of an ancient machine. Why? Again, look at the precision of the cuts. Look at the highly polished surface. Absolutely incredible. This is the retaining wall at Ollantaytambo. And way down on your left-hand side, way down below, that's where that one stone which they stood up, which somehow wound up on the valley floor. Something cataclysmic, like a great flood, happened, but this retaining wall remained. And you can look at the very top block, and you can see that those cuts go all the way through the stone. Why do this? When I'm at conferences speaking, I will ask, are there any woodworkers? And then I'll show this slide. I'll give you 3 pine blocks. Can you do this? Yeah, but at what cost? And that's with bandsaws and, all the tools that we have at our disposal. Electric sanders and all this other stuff. Well, and that's pine. This is andesite stone. Very, very difficult to do. Once again, that's the backside of Ollantaytambo, up on what they call the Temple Mount. Then we have these huge blocks, which are acting as a retaining wall. They're one of the few original stones which actually remain in place. And you can see the plinths that are here. You can see them there, and then a close-up looks like this. That's to keep the stones in place from earthquakes. There's Brian Forrester. You can see that something very cataclysmic happened here. And through the entire temple, or whatever this thing was, down on the ground, down into the valley below. Now, before I get into this, let me back up. This is all very, very hard rock. It's andesite, it's basalt, it's very, very hard stone to work in. And so going back here to Sacsayhuaman, let me just get back there. That's all andesite stone. And we're told that the Inca carved these rocks with copper chisels. So what we did, and I want to thank the gentleman who sent me this, we had a gentleman who got a block of andesite stone, and what he did was film with a copper chisel, striking the stone with a copper chisel. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. Here we go. That's the andesite stone. Here's the copper chisel. Nice sharp point. And here we go. One hit. And you can see already that the copper, one hit, one strike, and the copper chisel was already broken and bent. Now watch. And there you go. Completely blunted. Completely blunted. And here's the andesite stone. And nothing has scratched it. So I'm going to stop there for today. I'll pick this up again a little later, maybe on another show. But the point I'm trying to make is this, and this is why this kind of stuff really irks me. Because if you can't cut the andesite stone with a copper chisel, then you can't cut stone with a copper chisel. So somebody's creating a narrative which is a false narrative. Thus, the Inca did not build Sacsayhuaman or Ollantaytambo or any of the other sites that we see that are megalithic and ancient, found in Peru and Bolivia and elsewhere. So who did? And that's what opens up, in my opinion, the book to the supernatural, i.e. the biblical prophetic narrative. Because this is fallen angel technology, Nephilim architecture. Thanks so much for watching, folks. You can go to the website and you can download all 8 films, lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.com, or you can go to streaming.lamarzulli.net and you can download all 8 for like $5 a piece. So for $40, you can watch 8 films. That's a great deal. It's a great deal. Gil Zimmerman, my business partner, and I are working, and we're in post-production on number 9, which in my opinion is going to be a mind blower. Don't forget Rungs of Disclosure. Rungsofdisclosure.com, rungsofdisclosure.com, our $10 DVD set, lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.net. Thanks so much for watching, folks. Remember, there is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of the Nephilim. Thanks for watching.